What's up, sports bettors? Yesterday we had a pretty good day in the NFL. So Zach Moss over in rushing yards. We had Alex Pierce over 2.5 receptions. So both of those plays cashed. Again, I'm just tracking profit and loss in this spreadsheet, which is in the description of the video. And what we're going to be going through now is an early play for next week. And I'm looking at the Jets Seahawks game. So I try to keep these videos, educational. And I say this all the time, but great lines don't last forever. Sometimes if I give out a play, it'll still be available at the same odds. Sometimes it won't be. That's why I try to focus on strategy and education. So on top of getting plays that make you money long term when you're able to tail, you're also able to become a better sports bettor, and you can, do these things yourself. So I use a bunch of different tools to, kind of look around the market and scan for value. And I say this all the time, but the reason it's so easy to make money sports betting is all these bookies, they set lines independently. They try to do it themselves. So you can see the Jaguars, for example, they're best offered, best odds at minus 185 on SBK. FanDuel has them minus 215. DraftKings minus 205, Barstool minus 210. So the prices, it's kind of like having a bunch of different prices for Bitcoin. It doesn't really make sense, but being able to grab minus 185 on SBK is pretty incredible value, it looks like, compared to the rest of the market, but that's not a bookmaker I have available in my location. So that's another point I'd like to make is, not every sports book is located, or not every location has every sports book. There's dozens of sports books kind of in the sports betting ecosystem. I don't have Borgata right now. I don't have 888 Sport. I don't have Bet Parks. So I don't know if there's any profitable plays on those platforms because I'm not looking for them because I don't use those sports books. But you may find different plays, or you may have different sports books available, which is another reason I try to focus on strategy. Making money, beating the books. You can do that to any book. So the first play I ended up going with is right here. It's in the Jets Seahawks game. And I ended up taking the Seahawks plus 2.5. So this play has a profit margin of 1.25%, as you can see right here. And here's why we like it, right? This is data-driven sports betting. So first of all, you can look at the odds. Every sports book has this minus 110, minus 110, or they have lines juiced towards the Seahawks covering. FanDuel has it minus 112, which is worse odds than the Jets minus 2.5. So FanDuel's model, the sports book is predicting that the Seahawks plus 2.5 is more likely to occur. Same with DraftKings, minus 116 versus minus 111. Lines are juiced towards the Seahawks, right? You can take a look at all these sports books. Betfair Exchange, this is peer-to-peer betting, minus 117. Lines are juiced towards the side with the Seahawks. Bet Online, lines are juiced towards the Seahawks. Every other sportsbook is minus 110, minus 110. So basically every single bookmaker has the Seahawks plus 2.5 as the favorite outcome. Especially the important ones. Bet Online, a really sharp offshore sports book. It's known to be a sharper bookmaker. They take bigger bets. They take more bets, so it's a more efficient market. And then Pinnacle is known to be the sharpest bookmaker in the world. And they have them minus 111. So we're getting 11 cents of improvement, and you can see Pinnacle, they have a very tight market. You can get the Jets almost minus 2.5 at minus 101. So really clear value on this play on the Seahawks plus 2.5. And this is the play I ended up going with. And again, I'm following the data. I'm following the market and just showing you guys the plays I'm putting my own money on and how I think about my bets. So I hit this for $2,000. The profit margin is 1.25%. So you can see my bet slip right here. But $2,000, I'm betting $2,000 to win $2,000. 1.25% edge or profit margin means our play has $25 in EV, in profit margin. You can see if we bet $1,000, it would be $12.50. If we bet $100, it would be 1.25. So you may be like, well, this only works if I'm betting $2,000, And that's not true, right? What you have to remember is, we on NFL plays since the start of, football season, we're up, just plays I've given out on YouTube, we're up 41.7K. Granted, we've been running pretty hot on YouTube, but no promos, no fantasy, just straight up positive EV betting. We're up a lot of money. And again, we're just following the data. I say this all the time, but you don't have an edge in the NFL. There are millions of people betting on the NFL. These sports books invest hundreds of millions of dollars into their ability to set lines, right? So just like the price of a stock, supply and demand determines how lines move around. So the fact that lines are juiced towards the Seahawks plus 2.5 means all sports bettors, the millions of NFL bettors are expressing their opinions that the Seahawks plus 2.5 should be the favorite outcome. And that's reflected in the sportsbook odds, right? Sportsbooks, they want to make their spread. They move around odds due to supply and demand, and they try to make their risk-free spread called the VIG. Sportsbooks want even amounts of money coming in on Seahawks plus 2.5 and Jets minus 2.5. If there's equal money coming in on both sides, right, the sportsbook just makes their risk-free spread called the VIG. If more money starts to come in on the Seahawks, they'll move lines in favor of the Seahawks, right? It's all reflected in the odds, just like the price of a stock. Supply and demand, CEO dies, fraud alert. People start selling, right? So the price goes down. Supply and demand, supply and demand, supply and demand. So the opinions of millions of sports bettors are reflected in these odds. And we have, hundreds of sports books in the ecosystem, sports betting ecosystem, posting odds, right? So we can look at every sports book, look at where they're posting their lines and try to get a sense of, okay, so where should the line be, right? And based on the fact that FanDuel, DraftKings, two of the biggest U.S. sports books, Caesars has a even minus 110, but probably the two biggest U.S. sports books, they have the Seahawks plus 2.5 as the favorite outcome. In terms of offshore sports books, Pinnacle, Bet Online, the two sharpest bookmakers are very bullish on the Seahawks plus 2.5, right? Pinnacle's pretty juiced in favor of the Seahawks plus 2.5. And then Betfair Exchange, peer-to-peer betting, biggest one, minus 117. They're juiced in favor of the Seahawks. So it's a no-brainer to pick up the Seahawks plus 2.5 at plus money. Like, that's a play you want to be all over. Now, a lot of people will be like, okay, let's switch over to NBA, which is today. A lot of people will be like, well, that's not a ton of profit margin, 1.25%. That doesn't seem too great. And the thing is you're thinking about it wrong, right? You're really thinking about it wrong. So let's try this. Let's open up everything. Let's do Caesars, Prize Picks. We'll kind of open up everything, and I'll show you an example. Is this play I ended up locking in for today? It has a 5.07% profit margin. So it looks like I closed it. But, most of my bets, like if we look at Underdog Fantasy, for example, nope, I wanted to go to Pick'em. Like all these games are today, right? So this profit margin is today. These plays, that profit margin is today. Sometimes we're betting in the future, like our NFL bet, which is, 6 days away or 5 days away, I guess. But for NBA, these games are today. So you're earning a 5% profit margin on a daily basis. Granted, most plays aren't that high of a profit margin. That's a really good profit margin. That means in 10 days, your bankroll would be 1.5 times the size if you placed a very, very large quantity of bets. This play is very profitable, 5%. So when people think about, a lot of people just don't, fully understand. They'll be like, hey, this is my bet tracker on Verified Bet Tracker Picket, just a bet tracking company. And I show this not to be arrogant or whatever, but it's to show you that these, first of all, there will be ups and downs. Just because a bet has an edge doesn't mean it's guaranteed to win. That's not how it works. It means this bet is mathematically profitable, and in the long run, placing positive EV bets will yield, money. But one bet can, of course, still lose. It's like if a coin is 55% to land on heads, if you flip it 1,000,000 times, it's going to show up on heads more often. If you flip it once, it will show up tails 45% of the time. So you want to manage your bankroll. I'm not saying put all your money on Seahawks plus 2.5. That's not what I'm saying, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is a bet with an edge. It is a bet with a positive profit margin. And you're not going to get rich overnight, but you can see here, when you're placing bets with an edge, 3% ROI at the time of, this screenshot in my pinned tweet is when you're earning that every day, 3%, 3%, 3%. You start to see the money compound very quickly. People talk about 8% a year for the stock market. Imagine 3% a day, 3% a day, 3% a day. That's how you really start to make money sports betting if you have an edge. I mean, even if, you had only 1% edge in sports betting, that's 365% a year. But you just have to place a lot of positive EV bets. Like if we had a coin that's 55% to show up on heads, I'd be like, yo, let's flip this coin a million times. I'll take heads. And I know I'm going to win because I'm placing a very large sample size. But if we're flipping it once, I'm not putting all my money on that, right? But anyways, hopefully this was helpful. A lot of strategy. This is a strategy video. The goal is to make sports bettors smarter. So I hope this helped you. Hopefully, this line's still available. You're able to get it down. Seahawks plus 2.5. I locked it in, $25 in profit margin, and let's make money.